Hi everyone, welcome to my channel about living in New Zealand. But today's video is not about living in New Zealand, but about living in New Zealand. Because there are so many people who live in New Zealand for some period of time or they live forever. And there are some very important points why we make the decisions. And I think this is very important to consider if you are moving to New Zealand or you are thinking of moving to New Zealand. You also should think of what would be the cause of this country that might make you actually live or immigrate to another country. This is unfortunately true because there are thousands of people who live in New Zealand who depart from New Zealand each year, and many of these people are actually Kiwis. Yes, this is unfortunate, very unfortunate that it's about 1 million of Kiwis, New Zealanders, are living abroad. And population of New Zealand is just 5 million. So there are about 6 million of Kiwis and 1 million of them live abroad. And for example, just only in 2022, about 24,000 of Kiwis left. And there are some news, maybe you haven't even heard, that about 1 million of Kiwis are set to leave. But this data doesn't hold true, and actually there was research about the method and studies, how we did this research, how we actually come up to the point that they say that there are 1 million of Kiwis who want to live, and it actually wasn't really appropriate to say that because their survey or the research what we did was not really comprehensive, so there was just misinterpretation. You can read more about this in the news. No, there are not many people who want to leave, not 1 million of people, but still there are so many people who move to Australia, for example. Yes, it's unfortunate because there are so many people who live in New Zealand but they don't want to. They actually would rather live in New Zealand, but they have to move to another country just because of salaries or job opportunities, quality of life. So all these reasons we are going to be discussing in this video, and I hope it opens for you the overview of some cons of New Zealand and reasons why this country might be not for you. Maybe you shouldn't even move here, so in the future you don't have to leave this country. So let's jump to this video with main points why people emigrate from New Zealand to other countries. And of course the most popular country is Australia, but also Canada and even Singapore. Yeah. So the main category of people who emigrate, who move out from New Zealand, are young adults, so young professionals, usually people who either just finished their university or finished their high school. Among Kiwis, this is particular very common. These are people between 18 to 27 years old. So it's kind of logical, they want to seek new opportunities, so they go to different countries. Among immigrants, among non-Kiwis here, who emigrate from New Zealand, those are different kind of people. That could be families, could be also singles, individuals, professionals. The range is big, but overall we are losing young people. If we are talking about Kiwis, young people are leaving New Zealand and it's unfortunate. Hopefully they will come back, and it also often happens that they come back. So the first reason why people move out from New Zealand, why we leave New Zealand, especially among Kiwis, it's OE. OE is overseas experience. Overseas experience is when people here, they finish high school or university or school and they go for at least a year abroad. During this year they usually do work and travel, or they just travel and work occasionally, depends. And it's like a very good tradition among New Zealanders. So it's very common when young people just go for a year or a bit longer, you know, depends. And then they come back. That's also called overseas experience. So you gain an experience, you also travel, but you eventually come back to New Zealand. So I find it just super idea. It's incredible when people move overseas and when they just collect new ideas, they collect experiences, and they become rich individuals, they become more educated, more experienced, and then they come back and they do something here, you know. They are more valuable residents and citizens for the country because they are more well educated now. They are more aware of overall world, what is outside there, because when you live in New Zealand, you are isolated. I think it's just amazing, and I hope more people come back. So if they go for this experience, I wish that they come back, maybe also sooner, because some people go for this experience for 10 years, and it's unfortunate that we lose some people for such a long time. There are so many people who go and live abroad, like in UK or Canada or US for 20 years, and then they kind of grow up, they mature, they have a family, and then they move back to New Zealand. This is also very common, but I think it would be the best if New Zealanders go for overseas experience for 1 year, and then they come back and they bring all their knowledge back and start working, start support their country. So this is the first reason, is overseas experience. Another reason why Kiwis, but also immigrants, live in New Zealand, because there are really plenty of immigrants who move to New Zealand. They seek a better life. They have here a better life, but with the time they understand that they can have better life somewhere else. That's why I also made a video about quality of life in different countries in compared to quality of life in New Zealand, so we can kind of see how New Zealand stands here internationally, and why, for example, some people prefer New Zealand and why some people would prefer Canada or US. And in that case, the job opportunities when people leave New Zealand and move somewhere else to grow in their career, usually they will have better career overseas, they will have a better job. Doesn't mean it has better paycheck, but it definitely will have better influence on their career, and they have probably more responsibilities, because I can imagine it's pretty difficult in New Zealand to get a managerial job if you're an immigrant. Because as I have heard, they prefer to have Kiwis among managers and all the high rank positions. And as an immigrant, it could be difficult. So you probably will have better chance in other country, right? So that's why also immigrants leave. Painful moment why people leave, because of high cost of living. New Zealand has high cost of living, but salaries doesn't match up. So you have high expenses, but you don't have extremely high income. So you earn and you spend, you earn and you spend. Not much savings going on there. And that's also why people leave, because they understand that they could go somewhere like Canada and they could have a better paycheck, but cost of living is actually lower and housing prices are actually also lower, but it's a different problem. So cost of living is one of the biggest reasons. I would say even cost of living could be the bigger reason for people to move out of New Zealand than job opportunities. Because I see so many people complaining about cost of living in New Zealand, not even complaining, but yeah, we're telling truth, but it's a big pain point here, and it makes many people leave. Yeah, the next also is the house prices, is unaffordable house prices. If you compare it internationally, New Zealand house prices one of the highest in the world compared to income, and the average house price is over 900,000 New Zealand dollars, just the medium house price. I would say it's about 650 US dollars, so 650 US dollars. And if you look at the house price in Wellington, Wellington is a capital. In the March 2023, the medium house price in Wellington was about 800,000 New Zealand dollars. And if we compare Wellington to Montreal, the city, or the large city in Canada, the average house price in 2023 is about 550,000 Canadian dollars, but it's about 665 New Zealand dollars. So house prices in Wellington are significantly higher than house prices in Montreal, but Montreal is a large city. It has 1.5 million people. It has good jobs opportunities. It has higher salaries, but house prices are higher in Wellington. And maybe you know, but Wellington doesn't have really great housing. Many houses are quite old, like villas. And in Montreal, I'm sure you will get a much better value for this money. And to compare Wellington to Auckland, in 2022, the median house price reached 1.3 million New Zealand dollars. If in Wellington is 800,000, in Auckland is almost 500,000 more than in Wellington. It's insane. House prices are also another big point why people leave New Zealand. The next point is also related to cost of living, because it's a salary. It's important to manage your cost of living. If you have a good salary, you can manage. If not, you're not. And in New Zealand, unfortunately, salaries are not the greatest, especially among English-speaking countries. So the average salary in New Zealand is about 60,000 New Zealand dollars, which is about 36,000 US dollars. But of course, it's average, so your salary will depend highly on your profession and also the city where you work. But the average wage for a software developer is 100,000 New Zealand dollars. While I checked in Canada, the average salary just across the Canada for a software developer is 123,000 New Zealand dollars. So it's 25% difference. And of course, in Toronto, you probably will get more. It all depends on the city. It's 25% already. So you will get better paycheck in probably Canada or US as you could get in New Zealand. That's also a reason why people live in New Zealand. If they want to have higher income, they usually live. It's a balance, you know. New Zealand gives you what Canada or US don't give. So you give, you know, your take on how you say it. Yeah, it's all balanced out, but wages here are not the highest among the most attractive countries for immigrants. Immigrants just go somewhere where we get better money. That's it. Another important point why people move out from New Zealand, it's the location of New Zealand and the distance to their family and friends. Maybe when you move to New Zealand, you plan to go back home once a year and see your family, but it's very difficult because it's so expensive and it's so long, the flight there, how long it takes to get to your country. So that's why people also move out, because they are kind of frustrated that they cannot visit their family, they miss their family and friends. And this is the big point for many, and unfortunately you cannot do anything with this, right? It's not the fault of no one, but it's just the reality. And either you make a decision and you try to visit your family, you save a lot of money every year, but it's also kind of pity because you spend all your holidays going somewhere and it takes forever and it costs so much. So I don't know how people actually manage it, but I'm not expecting to go back home every year. I think that I will go once in 3 years maybe, but I don't want even, because for me it's definitely the waste of time and money. I would rather go travel than I will go home, spend so much money. That's really the thing with New Zealand. I would rather invite my family here than I would go somewhere. And to invite your family here, it will cost you 5 times more. But then it makes sense. But then you will do it once in 10 years. One big point of why people emigrate from New Zealand, because immigrants who come to New Zealand, they often don't integrate entirely or don't integrate well. There are many reasons for this. Some people just are very culturally diverse. They, for example, from Asia or Latin America, from countries which are very different to New Zealand, and it's very difficult for them to integrate in a society, to find friends, to find partners. They always feel like foreigners, and it's easy for them to leave. They are not settled, so they can just pack and leave. It's a common thing in many countries. I think it's simple as it is, and it's difficult to integrate, but if you want to integrate, it's actually possible. But the foreigner must put a lot of effort into integration. They have to go out of their way, which of course we have to deal with so many things that it's the last thing which you want to put so much effort and work in integration. And the part of the adaptation and settlement in the country and integration, it's also this period when you move to the country. First year you love the country, right? You love everything, and the second stage of immigration, it's when you see the reality, you try to adapt, you try to settle. Maybe there would be the points which you don't like and disappointments, and if you pass this stage, you will be settled, you will be integrated. But many people, they leave New Zealand or other country, immigration country, and that point of this frustration and kind of this fighting period where you are not integrated yet, but you already passed the period when you're in love with the country. So now this is reality. You have to accept this country. And many immigrants, they fail to do this. They don't accept this country, and then they leave. They see something new and they go somewhere else, and then it repeats again, this phase, the stages of immigration, of adaptation and the settlement. So this is also the big reason why people leave New Zealand, because they come here, they get a job, they start their life, but then they understand, oh, cost of living is so high, and this annoys me, and this I don't like, and they don't adapt it, they are not settled, they are not integrated, so for them it's easy to go, and they don't wait till this period is over, they just go. This is also the reason. The next one may be less important for some people, but more important for others, is the free time, activities and entertainment. As you might know, New Zealand isn't super fun and sexy country. There isn't much to do in terms of nightlife or cultural activities, events, history, these kind of things, which, for example, you go to cities like Paris or London and it's all over the place, right? This is why there are so many cities which are top-notch in this category, the cultural activities and free time activities, just city life. And New Zealand is very lacking in that sense. In that sense, this country is boring, but people don't realize it. And when we move to New Zealand and they see how it is, of course, it misses, you know, they miss the things which they probably used to do in their home country or the place where they lived before. And they cannot find it in New Zealand, and then they leave New Zealand. It's a natural progression. The next point, also important, is the isolation of the country, not in terms that you cannot visit your family and friends, but also because it's hard to travel and it's expensive to travel. And because we are so far away, we also don't have many services or products and items here. They all have to be shipped. Either it's not possible or it's gonna be cost a lot. It's unfortunate, yeah, we are isolated, but it's also fortunate because we are isolated, we are so far away from world problems, but we have the problem that, yeah, we try to survive on our own and we don't have much here. It's a small country still, and we need to import a lot of things. And for some people it could be the problem, they don't want to pay so much, we don't want to wait, and they want also to travel. And travel internationally from New Zealand isn't the best idea if you want to do it often and if you want to go to many places and you, for example, work your job and you only have 4 weeks of vacation. Yeah, you probably will not travel so much, or you will spend all your money on travels, all your savings for a year. For really people who are into travel, like travelers, make a living out of travel, you know, travel bloggers, choosing the New Zealand as a base, it's a mistake. It's a costly mistake. I don't think there are many people who do this, but still, if you want to travel and if you want to enjoy different international products, New Zealand is a very bad place. It's even compared to some other islands like, you know, Mauritius, where you also have to ship so many things. We have a kind of same problem here. These are main reasons why immigrants leave New Zealand. And to conclude it, New Zealand, as I see it, New Zealand is more for people who come here for a lifestyle. They are more romantic, more free spirits. They seek adventure. They don't seek money. They don't live to work. They don't live to just have a lot of money and sit in a city and go to concerts and parties. This country is for people who just live for enjoyment and for adventures, who are romantic, who are not materialistic. And people who doesn't fit in this category often leave, and this is unfortunate. So I hope this video gave you some insights on reasons why people move out from New Zealand. Especially this applies to people who are immigrants, who move to New Zealand for some reasons and then they move again to Australia or to Canada or to some other countries. And unfortunately it's true, but it's also good for us because then there are only people here who stays here. We really love it and we really appreciate it. But I hope at least it was a little bit insightful. And don't forget to subscribe. And also I have an article on my website, simplenewzealand.com, why immigrants leave New Zealand, where all the reasons also explained in written form. If you want to check it out, you are welcome. And I will see you next time.